been a while since Tears of the Kingdom initially launched, and that's given me the luxury of time to settle into it post-reviews. Seeing all the 10 out of 10s and the occasional Rogue 6 made it feel like writing this review would be an exercise in tedium, repeating the same tired words of enthused reviewers. However, having now sunk a considerable amount of time into Tears of the Kingdom myself, I can't confidently state that it is a 10 out of 10. In fact, it's not even a 9. There's a lot that this game does right, and for fans of Breath of the Wild, picking it up should be an immediate priority. However, it seems prudent to begin this review by stating simply, Tears of the Kingdom is not perfect, and it has plenty of flaws. Before I delve into the flaws of Tears of the Kingdom, I want to begin with the positives. First and foremost, Tears of the Kingdom is a technical masterpiece. This magnificent triumph seems to defy all odds considering the dated hardware it's running on. At a measly 16GB, it allows players to seamlessly travel between the depths, an underground cavern that runs the length of the entire map, Hyrule itself with its newfound love for tunnel systems and expansive caves, and the plethora of sky islands with their own intricacies and smattering of puzzle-laden buildings. Very minor frame rate issues aside, Tears of the Kingdom offers an unparalleled open world, the likes of which the Switch and competing platforms have simply never seen. Even Cyberpunk 2077, the supposed next-gen in open world gaming, cannot offer such dynamic and seamless exploration. Of course, all of this is complemented by Tears of the Kingdom's gorgeous and seemingly ageless art style. The striking yellows and dilapidated greys of the Sky Islands feel suitably ancient, evoking hints of the forlorn castle in the sky from the Ghibli film of the same name. Similarly, the rolling hills and verdant valleys full of vibrant green grass and sparkling sapphire waters capture the picturesque serenity that the franchise has since become iconic for. In that sense, Tears of the Kingdom feels like a masterclass in what a team of talented developers with an unlimited budget and time can do. Comparatively to the latest Pokemon, Tears of the Kingdom looks as if it were made in a vacuum in which creativity and joy triumph over corporate greed. In many ways, the scale of Tears of the Kingdom's open world feels like its biggest accomplishment over its predecessor, but the impressiveness of that scale would be nothing were it not for the density of activities and life within the world. As the famous saying goes, 4 times the size, 16 times the detail. Tears of the Kingdom's world feels far more alive than Breath of the Wild's. You will find more people roaming the wilds, parties of monster hunters engaged in furious battles with bokoblins, travelers searching for mysteries, merchants looking to offload their seemingly endless supply of restless crickets, and so on. In fact, Tears of the Kingdom's world is so teeming with life that even the once elusive Koroks can be found out in the open, desperately awaiting someone to reunite them with their friends. In some ways, this newfound sense of bustling activity diminishes the peaceful and occasionally haunting beauty of Breath of the Wild's apocalyptic landscapes. However, it is, in my eyes at least, a vast improvement owing to the fact that exploration feels more rewarding and immersive. Furthermore, thanks to the increase in people wandering around Hyrule and its many towns, Tears of the Kingdom has a significantly greater amount of side content for you to complete. Side quests make a return from Breath of the Wild, but are significantly more interesting. Their quest lines are less obtuse, and many extend beyond the familiar fetch quest formula. While there are plenty of basic quest lines that pepper the world with a baseline meaning, the various side quests that extend themselves to involve a cast of memorable characters give Tears of the Kingdom its true purpose. Of course, beyond questing, players have a plethora of additional side content to complete, from helping hold up signs by using the new Ultrahand ability, more on that later, to completing a new set of shrines dedicated to the proper utilization of the game's mechanics. There's plenty to do in Hyrule. For the open world enthusiast or Breath of the Wild superfan, all of this will feel simultaneously cozy and exciting, a perfectly brewed concoction of familiar adventure that constantly surprises you. But for those who prefer a more linear experience, Tears of the Kingdom and all of its incessantly overwhelming intricacies, activities, and eye-poppingly engrossing wonders may feel engulfed by the sheer, unceasing nature of it all. However, if you do find yourself overwhelmed in Tears of the Kingdom, there is fortunately a more nuanced and present narrative to fall back on. I've left the discussion of Tears of the Kingdom's story to the less overindulgent end, as it's not really a highlight in the grand scheme of things. While Nintendo has undoubtedly done its best to address the many valid criticisms levied at Breath of the Wild's weak storyline that did little to offer much nuance to its characters and world, it continues to perpetuate the belief that this franchise has seemingly very little to do with the titular legend. That being said, the game's opening does a remarkable job of introducing you to its terrifying new central villain and explaining away Link's sudden lack of hearts, stamina, or iconic Master Sword. It's a cinematic start to an otherwise free-form experience that doesn't rely too much on a central narrative to propel its more creative ambitions. Simply put, Tears of the Kingdom does a far better job of fleshing out its world, characters, and narrative than its predecessor, but is still far too hesitant to put its story front and center. Do not buy Tears of the Kingdom for its narrative alone, you will be disappointed. It is at this point that the dread of criticizing such a tremendous achievement swells in my chest like a hive of angry bees. Because, for all the wonder and splendor of Tears of the Kingdom's open world, the unabashed and frankly incredibly ambitious creativity at play feels precariously fiddly. It's hard to put it into a single word, how at times compromised, broken, arduous and needlessly complicated Tears of the Kingdom can feel, so fiddly will have to suffice. Perhaps it's best to begin with Tears of the Kingdom's perplexing and controversial decision to carry over the durability mechanic from Breath of the Wild. However, while Breath of the Wild used the mechanic to encourage players to experiment with its range of unique weapons, Tears of the Kingdom uses it to force players to use its new fuse mechanic. As many will have seen in the limited promotional material Tears of the Kingdom actually received, the fuse mechanic allows you to connect your weapon and shields to almost anything. Logs, minecarts, mushrooms, flamethrowers, and more can be essentially taped to your weapon to give them additional power and abilities. More importantly, however, it extends a weapon's durability, allowing you to use it for longer. The downside is that all weapons are now decayed, meaning their base durability and power start off incredibly low. As a result, you're forced to fuse them almost instantly, attaching a once potentially stylish or impressive looking blade to a giant rock, log, minecart, or other assortments of goofy appearing amendments. Additionally, in doing so, you alter the weapon's attack style. For example, fusing a rock to a sword turns it into a hammer. Consequently, discovering new weapons no longer has the same allure or luster it once had in Breath of the Wild. Every weapon is essentially a base from which to fuse whatever object you find lying around. While in theory this mechanic should open up a Pandora's box worth of creativity, it instead shrouds Tears of the Kingdom's weapon system in uniformity. Whenever I find a claymore, I know it has little use in combat without shoving a boulder or spiked ball on the end. Every weapon without the fuse mechanic is useless, making it a necessity and not a potential creative outlet for those who wish to engage with it. Conversely, the Ultrahand mechanic, Tears of the Kingdom's swan song achievement in the eyes of many, feels overwhelmingly unbridled in its creative possibilities. Clips of players creating their own mechs, fighter planes and orbital lasers using the Ultrahand mechanic have begun surfacing online already, revealing its truly unlimited potential. However, for many, it will feel like a wasted spectacle. Ultrahand can be an alienating mechanic requiring a significant amount of patience, creativity and time-consuming commitment to make the most out of it. Tears of the Kingdom does not offer guidance on how to build a mech or orbital laser, for example. Players have figured this out through their own ingenuity and creativity. In that sense, Ultrahand is a truly freeing experience, much like, say, Lego. At the moment, it really feels like anything is possible. But this is why it's so frustrating that Ultrahand feels incredibly fiddly to use. It is this facet of its overall design that ultimately makes this mechanic feel so alienating in the first place. Because while it is clear that a considerable amount of time and effort has gone into masterfully developing this core principle of freedom, the implementation of it is so poor and counterintuitive at times that most players are likely to struggle with maximizing its potential. Simply put, the experience of using Ultrahand is so unuser-friendly due to its fiddly, inaccurate controls and inconsistent rules, such as creations just breaking apart at seemingly random, that at the very least, I struggled to appreciate it as the crowning achievement it truly is. Of course, you can just use it for its most basic purpose, solving puzzles and crossing challenging terrain, but in doing so, the feeling that you're not quite getting the most out of Tears of the Kingdom's experience will forever eat away at you. Really, neither of these issues is particularly detrimental to the overall experience. Tears of the Kingdom's achievements are not overshadowed by the inconsistencies of the occasionally alienating Ultrahand mechanic or the ridiculousness of fusing weapons to minecarts. However, they do fundamentally alter the overall experience that fans may have familiarized themselves with by playing hundreds of hours of Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are vastly contrasting experiences despite sharing a lot of similarities. Even Hyrule, which many feared would simply be copied and pasted across, feels like an entirely different and at times unrecognizable world. In many ways, this is a positive as it ensures that Tears of the Kingdom keeps the Zelda experience feeling fresh. However, for die-hard fans, or even those who enjoyed the peaceful respite Breath of the Wild offered, it will feel like a negative. Unfortunately, despite asserting itself as a different and occasionally improved experience, Tears of the Kingdom hasn't adequately addressed the numerous unnecessarily fiddly design choices of Breath of the Wild. While there are plenty of quality of life changes, such as shrines no longer having minute-long introductions before you can even move, many aspects of Tears of the Kingdom's design feel cumbersome. For example, equipping an item to your arrow, which gives it a different quality such as increased damage, elemental damage, or even turning it into a missile, requires you to hold up on the D-pad and then scroll through your entire list of materials before you eventually find what you're looking for. However, equipping the same material again is not even automatic, so you'll need to repeat the entire process over and over until you're done. There is plenty more I could point out, such as the arduous cooking mechanic that remains entirely unchanged, or the fact that combat continues to feel unpolished and at times brutally unfair due to the imprecise nature of enemy hitboxes and the dodge mechanic. Additionally, you should expect to spend a considerable amount of time scrolling through wheels or lists of mechanics and items in the heat of combat or during quiet exploration, completely breaking your immersion. Unfortunately, the tedium this creates never goes away, and is only exacerbated the longer you play. Okay, but despite all of it, the fiddliness, the overwhelming freedom and questionable mechanics, Tears of the Kingdom somehow always manages to impress, stagger, and render me speechless, even as its runtime reaches ridiculous heights. Its continued striving for innovations in the genre, coupled with its flawless execution of blissful exploration and stunningly beautiful visuals, makes for a wonderful experience that never gets old. Sure, Tears of the Kingdom may not be perfect, but it is still a technical marvel that excels at restoring a sense of magic and wonder in the world of video games, and revives in players the mystical Nintendo charm that felt as if it were all but gone mere moments before its release. In many ways, much like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom raises the bar in what a genuinely free-form open world experience looks like, and continues the series' tradition of putting its competitors to shame. I highly recommend Tears of the Kingdom, and hope that you too enjoy the childlike joy of bounding into Hyrule once again. The game creator is giving The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stick around for more reviews like this one.